It is my pleasure to introduce our student speaker for today, Jillian Stineman. Jillian Stineman is a student at UCLA and is part of Nikkei Student Union, and was also part of our Qatari program this year. And welcome, Jillian.
Hello everyone, my name is Jillian Stineman, and I'm representing the Nikkei Student Union at UCLA as a staff member, and I'm also part of this year's cohort that organized the Manzanar Dust program. I would like to start by saying I'm extremely honored and humbled to speak to you here today at the Manzanar National Historic Site where my own family was incarcerated during World War II. I believe my awakening as a Japanese American and as an Asian American began with Manzanar. I did not grow up with an Asian American community and did not encounter many depictions of Asian Americans growing up. It was in 7th grade when I first read the book written by the late Jean Wakatsuki Houston, and my parents revealed to me that my grandmother and her family were forcibly removed from their home in Terminal Island, and my great-grandfather was arrested, and his fishing boat was taken away as he was suspected to be a spy sending secret signals to Japan. This was a formative event in shaping my worldview, which is why I later entered college as a sociology major and eventually declared an Asian American Studies minor while I was at UCLA and also joined NSU. I cannot express my gratitude and love for Asian American Studies and for NSU as well, which provided me with many opportunities to learn about myself and the larger JA community, including the wonderful weekend I spent with the 2025 MAD/Qatari cohort. While we gather here today to discuss the Japanese-American World War II experience, I think it's also imperative that I use this platform I have today to discuss what I find important. Each year, as we commemorate the events following the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the incarceration of the Japanese-American community, and the subsequent trauma and activism that followed, we continue to return to this historic site to find meaning in the senselessness of war, racism, and violence perpetuated at the interpersonal, state, national, and global level. It has been over a year since the State of Israel began its assault on Palestinians in Gaza and in the more extended history of occupied Palestine. Hundreds of Palestinians are killed each day, and the constant siege has caused approximately 1.9 million to be internally displaced in one of the largest genocidal projects we have witnessed in history. Last year, almost to this day, at UCLA, several student activists launched the Palestinian encampment, and alongside the support of other students, faculty, and UCLA staff, the encampment was also criticized for being anti-Semitic. Let me make it clear, I am not a supporter of anti-Semitism, and critiques of Israel are not inherently anti-Semitic. Originally, I was not going to share this due to safety reasons, but I was a visitor at the encampment for several days, and there was nothing of the sort. The camps were completely peaceful, full of joy and community, and I hate to see how the media has twisted and distorted the truth and intentions of college students. In fact, the nonviolent UCLA encampment was violently attacked by Zionists while the police stood by and did nothing, and UCLA enabled them. The student protests here, or at UCLA and other universities like Columbia, USC, and many others were under high scrutiny in a larger project to attack higher education, along with those who are critical of Israel or in support of Palestinian rights. There are also attacks on DEI to regress back to a time when many institutions and the public at large was hostile to people of color, women, and the LGBTQ+ community. And many of these coordinated attacks have begun to affect the Japanese American community and many of our organizations. If these various attacks have not touched you now, they will soon, and it is imperative to pay attention to these signs. We often hear the phrase, never again, an eternal promise that we will no longer allow what happened to Japanese Americans to happen to anyone else. If I have learned anything during my college career, it is understanding that the rights we have today, the right to free speech, the right to vote, the right to an education, the right to be legally integrated into society, were won very recently in history. And as a college student, I would also like to address NSU. It is my personal belief that NSU is not just a social space, it is a space to affirm our ethnic identities and gain critical consciousness based on our shared experiences and values. It is inherently political to come to Manzanar, and it is inherently political to be a part of this club. And also remember this horrific event in our history and draw parallels to communities across time and place. You're probably wondering, what the heck can I do as a college student? This shit, this stuff, low-key kind of gets, worse and worse each year. But I urge everyone, including my peers, not to underestimate the potential that NSU has to enact change. If we can host socials, general meetings, and volunteer events every week, mentor and guide each other, and even raise thousands of dollars to host events such as Cultural Night, we are already making change in our communities, and the sky is the limit. As many of us will be futurists in the J and Asian American community, I also emphasize the importance of critical thinking, self-awareness, and being open to difficult conversations about our successes and places for improvement. While many of the long fights may be over for Japanese Americans after the Redress Movement and the Civil Rights Act of 1988, we are still dealing with gentrification in our Japantowns, and many Asian Americans fear deportation. Many in Asia are dealing with the ramifications of imperialism in our ethnic homelands, and many students speaking up against fascism are being detained. In critical times like this, the only silver lining is that we are prompted to remain vigilant and remember the promise we made by taking action for those who cannot fight right now. One crucial step in this fight is to have discussions with each other and continue to tell our stories. Before I end, organized in collaboration with UCSD, Cal State Long Beach, UC Riverside, Cal State Fullerton, and Cal Poly Pomona, I, along with all these schools, invite everyone to the Manzanar Desk program located at Lone Pine High School to reflect and tell their stories around 5 p.m. Thank you.